My name is Camillo Speroni, and I'm the Global Director for Sovereign Cloud. In this particular case, global means every country except the United States of America. Why? Because the United States of America solved this problem 10 years ago. They wrote a law, and since then, all workloads and data classification that require specific measures are going to be managed according to this law. I thought that Joe, asking you guys if anybody has spoken about in your organization sovereignty in the last 12 months was an interesting question. My question would be, how about the last 8 hours? Since the news, given the fact that we're in Ireland, that your prime minister was hosted by President Trump in the White House yesterday. The geopolitical scene is affecting what we're going to talk about today in a way where I wouldn't be surprised if what I'm trying to tell you today might not apply a couple of months from today. The fluidity, the speed at which this landscape will change, in our opinion, in the next 12 months is something we've never seen. To quote Scott, who just said that he'd never had a problem in the last 6-8 months having meeting CEOs, I never had this much ease at getting a meeting with anybody since the last 5 months when I took over this responsibility. What is digital sovereignty? As I just talked about it, the fluidity, the speed at which things are changing. If I go around, maybe we're a couple of hundred people in this room, and ask you, I think we'll have close to 300 different answers. That is because half of you will probably be like me, start saying what it is that you think it's digital sovereignty, and while you're saying it, you're thinking about something else and you're going to change your mind slightly. That just gives you an idea of what we're dealing with. So in stereotypical Amazonian fashion, we're a builder's company. We do not truly have a definition of sovereignty, but we are going to provide you with the tools that you need to comply either with your country regulation or with your restricted industry policies that you'll be asked to comply with. We have classified digital sovereignty in two different major buckets. One that talks about data sovereignty and the other one that talks about operational sovereignty. From a data sovereignty perspective, what do we worry about? We worry about where the data is and who has access to it, including how do I restrict access to that data to people that I don't want having access to the data. When you go on to transparency, independence, resiliency, and survivability, you're really trying to basically say, how do I operate the environment on top of which my data reside, my processes operate, and how do I align to the famous geopolitical situation that we've just addressed, the fluidity and speed at which it changes. When we classify data sovereignty in these four major buckets, then we can have a conversation about what are you really worried about and how can we help you support and provide you the tool to make it safe, secure, fast, and innovative. While doing this, security has always been very, very important at Amazon. We've always put security first. And at the same time, for the past almost 20 years, we have worked with regulators around the world to define, write, and tell them our opinion on what is that we think technology can do to preserve the security of their customers and their citizens' data. We have now achieved over 140 different security standard and compliance regulations, which inherently, when you deploy a workload on AWS, you will be able to use as well. But this is just the beginning. As this world evolves, as we just discussed, we continuously double down and we continuously build a relationship with these regulators everywhere around the world. We'll see in a minute that one of our key offerings around sovereignty is an offering that came from a conversation with a customer in Singapore. The most important part, and our commitment to you guys, is how do we balance out the need for innovation and the request for control. We do not want these controls to stifle that innovation that your business requires. We are here to provide the platform, the tools, and every service possible to allow you to take care of the innovation while being secure and safe. By doing this, our CEO, 18 months ago, posted in a blog our definition. We believe we are sovereign by design. Because of what I've just told you until now, we've worked with government regulation, we've put security first, and we have 3 specific technologies that I'm going to tell you in about a minute here, that are going to help us define ourselves as sovereign by design. The first one, this is the fun one to talk about in public. This is something that is really, really deeply technology. You have to be a deep technologist to talk about it, but they have told me a way to tell you guys. The fastest way is, think of a house without a door, without windows. You cannot see what's inside the house. Now let's take this one onto data sovereignty. The only single point of failure normally, if you adopt encryption end-to-end, is you have the data encrypted on a database, you transfer it, it gets onto the silicon, it gets decrypted once you provide the cryptographic key. The moment it gets decrypted and then manipulated, that is the single point of failure that you possibly have. If anybody has a port onto the registry of the CPU, they can actually see what it is that the data is all about. What this system is, that is equipped on all of the AWS cloud regions, it basically shuts down all of the port, and there is nobody that can actually see in that decrypted moment what is happening on the CPU. This is a basic foundation of why we believe we are sovereign by design. Nobody within an AWS cloud can see a decrypted, a clear piece of data, even on the CPU. The second technology that we've adopted since the beginning, it's all about encryption, end-to-end encryption. We recommend to our customers to encrypt data at rest, to encrypt data while transferring. We recommend everybody to keep the data encrypted as much and as long as you possibly can. At some point, it's quite evident we're going to have, as we just discussed, work on data, analyze data, and therefore we have to do the decryption. The other part that it's important is that with one of our services, HSM, we have created a tool, a service that allows you to create, to manage, and to operate your own cryptographic keys. This is in the hands of the customer, you, not in the hands of the AWS operators that operate the cloud. Third and most important, this is literally for the most important top secret type of data. If you really are not good enough with Nitro, encryption back to end-to-end, and our own internal key store, we have now developed a service that allows you to host your cryptographic keys outside of the AWS environment. Not an easy, technologically speaking, and not a cheap solution to implement. But for those requirements where you have to be super secure and not anybody else other than people that you want have access to the cryptographic keys, this is the solution that we have available for all of our customers. When we go back in defining the AWS cloud sovereign by design, we're providing a foundation on top of which we're trying to enable you to advance, to innovate, to transform your business while keeping the data secure, access restricted and give you the ability to audit whatever movement of that data that may happen within the services. As a first example, in healthcare, normally data, it's used to aggregate and analyze to improve patients' outcome. In this case, this hospital in Germany decided to move over 10 terabytes of patients' data to the cloud. And then they figured out that they needed to comply with, obviously, GDPR, number one, and then the German social law for healthcare data. By adopting encryption end-to-end and the key store service that we have just discussed about, they were able to achieve compliance and allow auditors to ensure that throughout their day-to-day operation, they remain compliant with these two standards and regulations that they are required to comply with. Moving on to the financial services, where data normally it's used to enhance their own data security, to improve and optimize operation, and to deliver personalized customer success. This company, Velef, who is one of Denmark's largest pension fund, had an auditing problem, had a transparency issue. They needed to allow the data visibility, their own data visibility and their customers' data visibility to these auditors to ensure that they complied with the Danish Financial Authority security standards. By moving everything to the AWS cloud and employing, one more time, the key management store as well as encryption back-to-back, end-to-end, they were able to select the specific auditors and make them and allow them to have availability and visibility into all the data to achieve the audit passing and therefore being declared compliant. The issue comes, and this is why we're here at this conference, Data and AI. I'm talking about sovereignty. I haven't said data. I've said data a few times. I haven't said AI yet. But the reality is, how do we now, in this world that you describe, use AI in a sovereign world? Well, the reality is, with AWS, because of the architecture of our cloud, you don't have to worry. All of the services that are available in a commercial region to be at your service to keep yourself secure. The three major ones that we just discussed and all the other 300 plus will be available in most of our offerings, and I'll be clear to clarify which one may not have all of this in a minute. But the reality is we're trying to compromise between how do I maintain security, how do we operationalize your needs, and how do we allow you to actually have access to the data in a way that you can aggregate, analyze, and predict what the outcome would be through the use of AI. With our large array of AI and ML solutions, I'm not going to tell you again because you've heard it this morning, and you'll hear about it this afternoon as well. We are expanding all of our security, privacy, and control that you would need to comply with sovereign requirements, whether they are country-specified or industry policy that might become law as well. We will support, our AI supports encryption, access control, to allow you to decide whether you want the governance, the auditing, or the automated processing that will come with some of our services. Last but not least, no customer data is used to train the original base foundation model. And you can create your own model with private access that only you can have access to it. So at the end of the day, this is what we are discussing with the regulators, to pick up on the discussion that was happening on the main stage about an hour ago. Let's get into the offerings. What do we actually have that classifies under this umbrella that we call digital sovereignty? Okay, starting from your left to the right. The original, the 40 plus regions that we have deployed around the world of the AWS cloud. And then the big announcement that Joe referred to in December of 2025, we'll go and we'll dive deep into more details in a second, but we are launching the very first instance of the AWS European Sovereign Cloud. This will be based in the state of Brandenburg, Germany. Moving on to the edge, we have solutions such as local zones. Local zones which satisfy requirements around data residency, where the region may not be in the specific country where you have the requirement and the need to store your data. When you go, that's a fully operated mini region, if you want to call it this way, from AWS. Then you go even more into the edge with dedicated local zone. The difference between local zone and dedicated local zone is that a dedicated local zone is purposely made for either a customer or a specific community and not open to many different industry and or different customers like a local zone would be. Our key store anywhere. And then you go into, and I forgot about Outpost, which is basically an on-premises solution that allows you to be connected and parented by a major AWS cloud region and process and take advantage of the innovation, the scalability, and the pricing of the AWS cloud. When you go to the far edge, then you're talking about that external key store that we mentioned before, as well as some IoT services that you can embed on it. Let's talk a minute about this Outpost solution that I just mentioned. It's a fully managed solution that delivers AWS infrastructure and services to virtually any on-premises or edge location. When you have a low latency requirement, an extremely low latency requirement for your data processing, and you have strict data residency requirements, this could be your solution. Today, we're capable of hosting less than 10 services. These are the main services that AWS has on Outpost, but we do believe that this is literally for very specific workloads. I'll make an example. We're working with an entity in Brazil. Brazil is one of the 3 countries on the planet that actually has written a law for digital sovereignty. I mentioned the US 12 years ago. France, about 2 years ago, wrote a law called Secnum Cloud that they're pushing in their own country. And then Brazil, about a couple of months ago, decided to write 2 pieces of legislative regulation. Brazil started from defining what their data classification model was, and they defined 5 different layers. Level 5, level 4, top secret and secret. This is data that they don't want hosted not only outside of their country, definitely not, but not even in a commercial instance of a cloud. They want their own physical hardware to store it. That data, though, is less than 20% of the data over 5 petabytes that they need to manage. And what we are architecting with them is a solution where between a couple of outposts and a dedicated local zone we'll see in a second, the level 5 and level 4 data will be stored on the edge in their own physical buildings, and everything else will be in the commercial region where they don't really have any concern and they don't really need to comply with any regulations. That balancing act of the flexibility and modularity that we can offer you is what we are after. As builders, we want to give you the ability to find the best solution for your country, for your industry, but mostly for yourself and your customers. Last but not least, because it's important in a sovereign conversation, Outpost can, as we announced it, reinvent, in the case of catastrophic event, work disconnected from the parent region. There are limitations. There is a time limit to it, because at some point, then you really truly will lose the power of the cloud if you keep it completely disconnected. But we have announced that we can work disconnected, and that Outpost will actually arrive with the ability to work with a satellite connection. Let's go to dedicated local zone. As I said before, the difference between a local zone and dedicated local zone is that this one is purposely made for either an entity, a customer, and/or a community. This is where we're really trying to take 30-ish, more or less, services to the edge for very specific workload, where a large entity, today's government, we're seeing banks, for example, starting to ask us about what are the solutions that we have available. Definitely next in line that we're already having conversation are telcos, healthcare, life science type customers that are getting asked by their own regulators, where are you storing your data? What is your plan? Who has access to it? Can I see the logs? All the questions that we walked to up until right now. This, again, is an infrastructure that is fully managed by AWS that provides access to 30 plus of these services. And we continue to work with our services team to expand this offering capability to even incorporate more services and a little bit of some of the other functions that I just mentioned for Outpost a minute ago. And now we get to the star of what I do every day. I think in January of 2026, we'll have an existential crisis, because this is what we talk about every day in my world. We are launching European Sovereign Cloud. This is a multi-region, completely separated partition of the AWS cloud. It has never been done before that we've launched a region of this kind. This is a new independent cloud located and operated within the European Union, and as we will see, by European Union residents, which seems to be a key importance in the sovereignty conversation. It has and allows you to have the same security, the same availability, and the same performance that you're used to in the AWS commercial cloud regions. It, by definition, is sovereign by design, and it is a massive investment in AWS belief that the European Union needs some sort of level of independence. It's a $7.8 billion investment that we're putting in our business in Europe, and we do believe that we are on the right path. We're getting great feedback from a lot of regulators. We're having great discussion and debates with some others, and we're very convicted that this is the right path forward for us. Let's get into the details of what are some of the peculiarity of this region. Number one, it has its own identity and access management service. Today, when you authenticate in AWS with your own account, we will take your data encrypted and we'll send it to Washington. That is the one location where we have an identity and access management service. For multi-tenant purposes, this is the best way and the best architecture to do it. Obviously, that will break GDPR issues, that will break some other restrictions, and therefore we had to create a region that is part of the large network, but at the same time has a level of technical independency that allows you to actually authenticate locally. Another thing that seems very trivial, but I'm told by my service colleagues it's not that trivial. It will have its own local billing in euros, not in US dollar converted in euros, to take care of the potential currency fluctuation risk that every European customer normally has to take to account into for it. Some other things that we're really getting into are very specific to what kind of data do we keep and ensure and certify that remains in the region but most importantly, will remain in the European Union. And this data is not only resident data, the data that you are managing for your customers, but it's metadata, such as roles, permissions, resource labels, and configurations on how you use the AWS cloud. Both resident data and metadata will remain in the European Sovereign Cloud region. To give you a visual representation of what I'm talking about, what we are doing is building on the premises of the other regions that we've launched around the world, and then restricting a little bit more on access and shareability of some of the data so that we achieve and we allow you to achieve that compliance that we're seeking normally in a sovereign conversation. It's public, so I can talk to you guys about. This will be the region that will launch with the highest number of services available. We will launch with 95 services available. I'm looking at my team to see. Yeah, it's 95. I remember well. And we'll have available from the beginning, and will allow you to build right from January 1st, 2026. Not only build, but deploy and be compliant by keeping your data in Europe, managing security, privacy, and all of the loggings that you might need. We're very lucky. We've worked hard with our partner community. The partners that you see on screen are the launch partners that will have their services available on European Sovereign Cloud from day one. There's a lot more coming, and we're excited that I can't talk about it yet, but there's a lot more coming that we can announce that will be available on day one. And then we've also launched for our partners to help you a competency for which we are checking what level of sovereignty experience, capability, and services have they provided or they can provide today to ensure that when you choose one of them, you know that you chose the partner that has the capability to help you in a sovereign conversation. One of these partners, these systems, worked with Toll for Europe to ensure that the hundreds of thousands of devices that across 17 different toll operators in 14 countries in Europe are installed on cars can operate interconnected across all of Europe without breaking the regulations around GDPR, number one, from a privacy perspective, as well as some regulation of what data can actually be shared across different countries. I left the other 10 minutes. We can do even question and answer, Joe. We're good. I left the last example because it's relevant to our host country of Ireland today, where with our partner Deloitte, we helped the Ireland's Office of Revenue Commissioner accelerate their cloud adoption while ensuring it's compliant one more time with GDPR as well as with the Irish government cybersecurity and data privacy requirements. As we discussed here today, there is a lot of complexity involved with digital sovereignty. At the same time, what we're here to do is to work with the regulatory bodies to ensure that the AWS cloud and the offerings that we discussed with you today and the ones that will come in the future will be compliant with such regulation. All of them, because this is about the relevancy in a specific country, in a specific industry, whether they have a policy or not. We will ensure you we are committed to each country's commitment for data privacy. We will adhere to the highest security standard defined, and we will attempt to allow you to innovate as in a disruptive but secure manner as your requirements prescribe for each and every one of you. We are committed to offering each and every one the most advanced set of sovereignty, cloud, governance, security features, and we look forward to what we will be able to accomplish together in the future. Thank you.